What's good, campers? It's your boy Killer Beezy, and today we are here with another champion review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Human Torch. Now before we get into the video, I'm going to be throwing a few things up on the screen with regards to his abilities that you guys can read through, but I just want to state that this champion was granted via the content creator program. This is not my champion to keep, and this champion will unfortunately be removed from my account within the next few days. So what I also want to just get out of the way is I do not encourage anybody to purchase featured Grandmaster crystals for this or any type of champion. If you like the look at this champion by the end of the video, then feel free to save up your 5-star shards and go for him as a featured champion when he is added to the featured 5-star crystal. Now that we've got that out of the way, I have to be honest, man. When I first used this champion, I was very disappointed, man. You know, the Fantastic Four with the release of the Thing, and the Thing was really good. And you know, I had high hopes for Human Torch, man, especially since he's like my favorite Fantastic Four member. And yeah, man, I was just completely disappointed, to be honest with you. I did do a few fights with him, and after figuring out how he works, you know, I wasn't as disappointed, but overall I'm still not happy. If I'm being honest with you, I feel like you know, so much other things could have been done to make this champion a better champion, and I'll touch on that towards the end of the video. So just taking a look at some of the synergies here, I think you have to have the Thing, because that second synergy with the Thing, I think, is probably the most useful synergy for Human Torch, man. I think, you know, the other synergies I wasn't really a fan of at all, and again, the synergies was something that I thought could have been done a little bit better. You know, I just thought it's, you know, one of the synergies with Captain America Infinity War and Killmonger, like, is based on the opponent blocking your special, and like, it just doesn't make sense to me, man. It's just like, you know, and that's with a few of his abilities. So just to explain a little bit of, while you guys read up on the abilities on the screen or whatnot, so this is how you want to play the Human Torch, right? What you want to do is you want to build up his incinerate damage. Yeah, that's gonna be the big damage output from the Human Torch, right? It's gonna be how much you can make the opponents incinerate, right? And how much of them you can stack, right? The second part of the Human Torch's ramp up damage is going to be based on the smolders. Now the smolders, how the smolders work is, the more you can stack the smolders up, the longer your incinerate debuffs are going to last, and the more damage that you're going to be doing. Now the biggest problem I have with this is, based on everything that I read in the abilities, it seems like there isn't much ways to actually build up the smolders, and that was a bit disappointing to me, because obviously being in a fight, you know, with Alliance Quest and Alliance War and, you know, questing and whatnot, you don't want to be in a fight for like 10 minutes or like, you know, each fight in game modes like Alliance Quest and what is 3 minutes. You're not going to be able to build up that much smolders, man. The only way that I've found that you're able to build up smolders without taking hits or taking damage is by using his L3 special. And yeah, it doesn't make for, you know, his animations are quite good. I did really like that about him, but going into a fight where you've just got to spam the special 3 all the time, it doesn't make for much fun, man. Do you know what I mean? Eventually it gets boring. I'll be honest with you guys, after fighting the first fight with Human Torch, I actually quit out of the Winter Soldier fight because it just got so boring. It was just like, I was at about 350 hits in his normal state, and we didn't even have Winter Soldier down to like 50% health, and I was just like, mate, I'm not finishing this fight, man. So that was pretty much disappointing, to be honest with you. And then we went back in with and activated his Flame On ability, and that I found so much better. But still, although it was an improvement, I still think that, you know, they could have done a little bit more with this champion. But again, I'll get to that towards the end of the video. So all in all, man, I mean, if you're a massive Fantastic Four fan, and, you know, you want to collect all the champions and whatnot within Fantastic Four, then yeah, like, you know, it's not really going to matter. You're not going to really care about how good he is or whatnot. especially if you got the thing and you know you want to obviously add Human Torch to your team for the synergies and whatnot, and you know that's all good. But if you're just someone that enjoys using like really good champions, and you know champions that are really useful for certain game modes, like you know someone that you're looking for I don't know, variant, or you know Labyrinth of Legends or whatnot, I don't think this is your guy, man. I mean, I'm trying to think. I think the most useful thing that he will come in handy for is probably Alliance Ward Defense, man. I think he might make an okay defender, but again, other than that, man, I don't really see. If I had him in my roster, I wouldn't really pick him over some of the other champions that I have in my roster. So one of the things I want to touch on is Human Torch's new ability. He is going to be the first champion that has this actual ability to turn on an ability and activate it before you go into the fight. Now, in my opinion, I've tried fighting the Human Torch without this ability active, and then I've tried the fight again activating this before the fight. And when you activate this, it makes such a massive difference. He is so much better with Flame On activated. The biggest problem that I have is once you start a quest and he has one, once you use this and then you go into another fight, there is no way but luck that you can get another one of these abilities to activate it again. I believe it's I think it's below a 20%. Let me just double check. I think it's below a 20%. It's a 14.95% chance to gain one persistent charge to be able to activate that ability before the fight, and the chance increases by a flat 22% every time the ability fails to activate. So for me, it's just like, you know, you could go into a quest with Human Torch and activate that Flame On ability in the first fight, and as you know, when you're questing, the further on you get into the quest, the more difficult the fights normally get. So that means you could do one fight, activate this ability, and then for your next 3 to 4 fights, you might not gain a persistent charge to be able to activate that ability again. Which means for those 3 to 4 fights where you do not have this ability, they are going to be double the length of the normal fighting time that it would take you if you had that ability active. So one of the other things that I found with Human Torch is if you don't activate that Flame On ability, there are points in the fight where you can activate it temporarily, but I don't know how that works because I've read through his abilities and it doesn't say anything about being able to activate Flame On. And as you can see, I've used the L3 and we have the Flame On active, and you know, it's only active for maybe about 8 seconds average, but then it disappears. And I've also activated it by using my heavy attack, but it's like I said, it's random because I've used my heavy attack after this and done some testing and it hasn't activated. I've used my L3 when my temperature is at max and at 20 and it hasn't activated. So I'm not sure how that's meant to work, because like I said, I've read through in detail, and I don't know, maybe I am missing something, but I've read through the abilities countless times and I can't see anything in there that clarifies when you can activate his Flame On ability without it being active. But now I'm going to go into a fight where I show you guys what happens when the ability is active before the fight starts. Now, as you can see, we are in our Flame On mode and we are going to remain in our Flame On mode for the whole fight. But just look at the difference in the damage. So when he's in his Flame On state, his incinerate damage is massive. Yeah, it is absolutely massive. So what the reason for that is because it's not just incinerate damage anymore. This is actually called Nova Flames. So when he's in his Flame On state, that purple circle that you can see under my enemy, under Winter Soldier, is actually the Nova Flame stacking up. And then on top of that, you've got your normal incinerate that's also stacking with the Nova Flames. So the amount of damage that we're doing, as you can see, so we're doing the L3 to try and build up the smolders at the moment. And again, it brings me on to the point that I made to you earlier with regards to trying to build up the smolders. It's a long process, man. It's just a case of activating the L3 over and over and over and over again. And every time you use your L3 special, you're going to be gaining 2 smolders. And I just think it's really long. They could have done so much more with this champion, in my opinion. I mean, when you look at a champion like the Human Torch, I don't know why he doesn't have the ability. Like, you look at champions like a Mega Red who has a death field, and if you come into contact or close proximity with that death field, you're going to be taking more and more and more energy damage based on just being in a certain distance of a Mega Red. It's the same with Mephisto. So when you go close to Mephisto and his aura is up, you're going to be taking damage because you're in close proximity of the champion. You're looking at the Human Torch. The dude is surrounded by flames. Yeah? How are you not taking damage just from being in my presence? Just from me standing next to you? How are you not taking additional damage? That is something that I was very shocked about. I was shocked that just being near me isn't making you take extra damage. I was just like, it didn't make sense. I feel like even if I'm not touching you, or I'm blocking your hits, or you're just standing next to me, there should be some additional damage. My Nova flames and whatnot should just be increasing and stacking up even more just by being within close proximity of the champion. That is in my opinion as well. So yeah, I found that very weird, to be honest with you. Also, another thing I kind of wasn't really feeling is that when you don't activate his ability before the fight, I found it very... I didn't agree with the fact that there's no easier way to actually temporarily go into your flame on state. I feel like, something as simple as if your temperature is like at 20 or maxed or whatnot, if you swipe back and hold block, you should then be able to go into your flame on state. And once you go into your flame on state, the longer you're in there, the quicker your temperature decreases. Once it decreases below 5 or when it gets to 0, then you return to your normal state. And then if you wanna go back into your flame on mode, then you charge up the heavies again until you get to your like 20 max temperature, and then you can go flame on again. I believe that they should have given the players more control over actually activating his flame on ability, because it is such a big part of his damage output, and you not being able to access that, except for, like I said, there was like 2 or 3 occasions where I was able to tap into it for a few seconds. But like I said, it doesn't state in his description how that is actually possible. It just seems like it just happened by luck, because when I spammed the L3 without activating that flame on ability before the fight, it seemed to randomly go into the flame on mode, and then at times it randomly didn't. And then when I was doing heavy attacks, there was times where it would put me in my flame on state, and there was times where it wouldn't. So like I said, I don't know if I'm missing something, and maybe I haven't picked up on something, but I've recorded the footage, I've gone over it, I've looked, I've checked to see what I could have done differently, and there's things where I've done them exactly the same, and at one time it's put me into flame on, and then another time it hasn't. So I think that we should have had more control into... I think that the ability to activate flame on before the fight is good, because then it allows you to remain in the flame on state for the whole fight. So that's brilliant. Another thing that I was a little bit disappointed in was how you build up his smolders. So building up his smolders is a massive part of his damage output, and the more smolders you build up, the more damage you're going to be doing from the incinerate debuffs that you're applying to your enemy, and the longer the incinerate damage is going to last for. So I think that we should have been able to build up, they should have had a special attack, maybe an SP1 or an SP2, where spamming that maybe adds like 1 boulder, or spamming your SP1 maybe adds 1 boulder, spamming your SP2 maybe adds 2 boulders and adds a stun, and then spamming your SP3 maybe adds like 3 boulders. I think they should have done something like that, because when you're attacking, you can add a boulder by spamming your SP3, but other than that, the only other ways to gain smolders from what I've seen is by you taking damage. So I believe there are ways through synergies where you can add boulders, you can add smolders, sorry, by your last few hits on your special 2 being blocked but obviously you're not gonna use your SP2 if someone's blocking, so that's pretty much pointless, because then you open yourself up to a counter attack. And then on top of that, there's I believe it's if you take a certain damage type, you can also gain a smolder. So you can, yeah, whenever Human Torch would be incinerated, he places a smolder passive on him. So you know that's all fair and well, being able to build smolders, but obviously you don't want to, you know, if you're in certain game modes, you don't want to be taking damage just to gain smolders. So I think that the players should have had a bit more control over building smolders other than just spamming your SP3. And you know, taking those things into consideration, this champion, it was a little bit disappointing to me, because I feel like you have to do a lot in order to get decent damage from him, and that is probably the most disappointing part from me, man. But apart from that, he was very fun to use. Like, you know, his animations are sick, you know, seeing a man on fire just hovering in the air, just slapping man in his face, and you know, throwing fireballs, and you know, it's really good to see on the screen. But obviously when you're playing a game at a fairly high level, it's not just about animations. You know, you want to be going in to use a champion, and you know, you want the champion to, like, you know, end fights quickly. You want them to have some form of decent utility, and it just seems like Human Torch should be really overpowered against energy based champions or mystic champions, because they deal energy damage and he's just gonna absorb that all. But outside of that, he just doesn't seem like a option that I would use. You know, when you look at the amount of champions that are in the game, you know, he doesn't have enough about him that will make you say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna use Human Torch for this fight. So that's my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think based on what you've seen and what I've said in the video, and I will be reading the comments below and be responding to obviously what you guys think of the Human Torch. Thank you guys for watching, man. It's been your boy Killer Beezy. I'll see you guys in the next video, man. Peace.